a very busy week, and part of that is due to the C-19 issue. Part of that is just due to other things going on. This week we kicked off Autonomy Season 3, Richard Grove's course, and it was a really good lecture Friday night, and right into Do It Live podcast last night, which I was able to attend. And this way, Mosley. We got another dog coming up here. People are a little finicky, so we'll just get out of the way for a minute. I guess people aren't finicky. Mosley can be mean to other dogs. What else? In addition to that, just doing a lot of new activity under the new circumstances. The family and I getting ready to move to Arizona. U-Hauls are still running. People are still needing places to live. And we had plans in the works. We, have taken extra precautions, and we're not feeling like we're taking some extra huge risk in addition to what was already planned before. So, if you're in the northern Arizona region, and at first we're just going to rent because we want to scope out our next steps after that, but we need to kind of be in that region, if you know what I mean. And yeah, so it's been a busy week, and really just kind of the whole issue occurring delayed a lot of those plans, and now it feels like it's like go time. But everything else going good as far as my personal situation goes. Now, I know that a lot of people's personal situation has changed drastically, and some people intentionally, just based on a reaction to what's going on here. Other people completely unintentionally, they were just kind of doing their thing, going along, achieving their goals, or just kind of passing through. And all of a sudden, this just railroad just get completely, sideswiped by this freight train issue occurring. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about with that was a page that I created on Facebook, no less. Say what you want about Facebook, say what you want about me being on there. I probably agree with you, so before you just jump on me right away for even being on the platform. The page was originally called just tearing it down there. I wish I could get a better shot. Let's see. What was that? The page was called End the Federal Reserve, End Slavery. And it's because, humanity is financially, in a lot of ways, enslaved. And in a lot of ways, they're not also. Sometimes it's the perspective that you're going to put on it, but the system of money, known as the Federal Reserve System, which we've gotten into in other talks, and several months back we were talking about the upcoming collapse, which is still unfolding. There's been a decades-long collapse. It's really been a centuries-long ongoing collapse because of the way that the system functions is a giant theft of energy, really. So that's why it's called slavery, because people are basically having their life's energy consumed by others in a form, of legalese and basically, magic or sorcery when it comes down to it, right? Now, I had a little wind guard for this mic, and I said, well, I don't need to put that on. It's not that windy. Now there's that breeze coming through. So I apologize for that. But the page is now just called End Slavery. And what it's really kind of gone into now is a form of trying to help shed light on issues that are going on psychologically within people, and also in the media or current events, or just the overall state of humanity. If you look at the presentation I did called "The Struggle for Freedom," it was part one of falling into the movement traps. We talked about, we asked the question, does man really want to be free? Does the actions that man takes and the conditions that we create really, is it really conducive to the conditions that we will say out on the social medias in our virtue signaling that we're on our path to freedom? And if you look at, the response to this pandemic, a lot of people have gone completely back to begging the government to fix everything for them. They're back to being complete sheeple and believing everything that the media tells them about this issue, including all the statistics and all the numbers and all the graphs and all the deaths and everything like that. Here comes another person, but they don't have a dog, so no biggie. But yeah, so if that's you're, if you believe that everything the media is saying about this issue, that is kind of like being the sheeple. Leslie. Good morning. Leslie's like super excited. He must be getting antsy after being on lockdown. Yeah, but I mean, it's amazing to me how people will just believe what the media tells them, especially when they're in fear, And they'll even know, like on one level, like, hey, yeah, why now? The media is, full of shit and wrong all the time and lying to us. Until it's like something really captivating and something really traumatic. I mean, how many times does somebody have to get caught lying to you? And to be clear, this could be happening in any form of media, really, like even alternative media figures pushing like their stuff. A lot of the time, like, you'll come to the end of a rabbit hole and find out that they were just kind of selling you, and that you were really just being kind of like sold something the whole time, and they were just more savvy than you, and they had saw out a little bit further than you, and they're really not trying to help you. They were really just trying to get currency from you, and using the liberty movement as a kind of cover to do so. So there's that too, right? There's a lot of that in the conspiracy / YouTube generation or whatever new media paradigms, and it's starting to seep into a lot more of people's paradigm, like this alternative media revolution, which is awesome. I'm not saying that I don't think that's cool, but there's propaganda versus good information, right? Or something that could be useful. So the mainstream media, we're talking about, still like your NPR, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News. But then beyond that, there's several other outlets. Like, if you look at that graph from the Trilateral Commission, or it's the Council on Foreign Relations connections into ownership into all like the media outlets, and there's 100 different outlets, BBC, MTV, or different things, even like the Food Network or the Weather Channel, like all under one umbrella of a very small handful of people, right? And these people are what has now become known as globalists. And if that just like makes you angry because of Trump, then you're not getting the picture, of what globalism is. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump, So that's the other problem with the sheeple, is that they're I don't like to call people the sheeple, but I got my sheeple shirt on today, so it's just gonna come out. I for one think that the real issues in the world are due to psychological problems happening within each and every one of us, including myself. So I try to take full responsibility for the conditions of my life, being a man, who is going to do that and take responsibility for the conditions in my surroundings. I'm not going to go blaming Big Brother and the man and its COVID-1984 agenda on why my life sucks, if that were the case, which my life doesn't suck. Fortunately, I have a beautiful wife, 3 lovely children, and, things could get worse, but I'm really happy with how things are going. And there's a lot of fear in the media, obviously, and complete collapse of the economy is also like an underlying thing that people are handling and dealing with right now. Some people, like we were talking about earlier, it's not underlying at all. It's very right up front in their face at the moment. And if that's you, and you happen to be in your home trying to figure out what to do to bring in some extra income, and you really don't know how to do that at all, I would say that learning some basic skills, like learning how to use Zoom, if you haven't. I know Zoom just had that big security breach. But as far as I was reading about that, it's not really a security breach. It's more of a admin type thing. Like it's the administrator of that Zoom meeting would probably need to know what they were doing a little bit better as far as controlling the link and access to the link. So the Zoom bomber thing is like some guy joined a Zoom meeting for people that were doing school from home and shared some pornography or something, which is horrible. But it's like, well, then make sure your links don't get out, and make sure you put email restrictions on who can join, and make sure there's an administrator monitoring who can do what, and then someone who can put the kibosh on someone who does something in the meeting that's inappropriate. I mean, that is a situation that now someone's going to have to create some additional layers of security there. But anyway, so the Zoom, use that or whatever. Use Skype or Google Meet or Hangouts or WebEx is another one. There's plenty of ways that you can start to learn how to meet with people and share information, or learn how to do some training. And then you can reach out to me, Tyler at tylerbloyer.com, if you get stuck on any of those things, and I can give you a hand getting through some of those basic hurdles, right? Now, I'm not saying that that's going to start to immediately bring in some cash flow for you, but what I'm trying to do is say that there are some proactive things that you can do if you are stuck in isolation and have just lost your job and are waiting on your government check, $1,200, which I'm assuming is definitely not going to be the last of the government checks coming your way. As they just continue to manage this, they're like triaging the collapse at this point. And, I would not be surprised if you see things like war break out right now. It might seem very chaotic, but that would be one way, actually, to stimulate the economy in a sick way. It's worked in the past, and, there's a lot of other things that the government might do to try to keep the ship afloat. and we could be prepared for all sorts of different government programs at this point coming our way, which, if you're in a really bad way, you should maybe start reading about some of those things, or if you have assets to protect, obviously, then you're going to want to know what all these changes are coming down the pipe, and if you can take advantage of that in any way. Now, I understand being like so opposed and so woke about what's going on with the government that you're not going to, try to do any of that or take advantage of some of those things, but it's not about, a complete objective morality at this point. Like when you're already in the stew, do what you need to do to survive and take care of your family, Don't cut off your nose to spite your face, so to say. You don't look, for reasons to handle the morality of the situation when it comes to maybe even like accepting your $1,200 check. Now, that being said, that does not mean that I'm pro, authoritarian top-down control or government, or anything like that. I'm for people questioning what they're reading and seeing and listening to in the mainstream media right now. That's what's important. So, we are all in a mess right now, and not just this COVID-19 issue, you see. This is just exposing this collapse, this mental, psychological collapse condition of the true reason and the true cause for things like this is within the human mind. And so we have to go into and explore how mind control works and how fear and manipulation and things like that function. Because I assure you that it doesn't matter if this is just a natural phenomenon and, it's a virus sweeping through humanity and we need to social distance and blah, blah, blah. There's going to be very nefarious and bad actors basically working to take advantage of the situation. Just like, the scanners at the airports that are supposedly stopping terrorism, right? Those were ready to go when there was a terrorist attack that occurred and someone stood to profit tremendously. And there's nothing wrong with profiting tremendously. I'm not like anti-capitalism or something, right? People can profit, but sometimes people create situations for themselves where they stand to profit. If you can believe that. Even standing behind things such as like science, right, to make their profits. And then there's other even more nefarious things that are going on that are levels above even just like pharmaceutical companies trying to get you to take a vaccine, and even above like the window dressing that we see with Bill Gates and Elon Musk and this whole narrative of kind of where people are starting to become more aware of eugenics and Bill Gates and the idea of depopulation through kind of like a scientific, technocratic rulership through people that just know better than you, right? So they've got better information than you. Don't worry, they have it handled. It's all good. Just go about your day. Nothing to see here, folks. And everybody knows that the planet needs to be saved from us humans, and the way to do that is to have less of us. So even, in some way, I'm sure there's people who buy into all that completely, that are kind of in their mind, and this is not a stretch. Some people are going to say this is a stretch. It's really not, because what's really happening with those people, this is a hill, I better slow down or I'm going to run out of breath trying to talk. Is a form of self-loathing against themselves and the species, and a mindset of scarcity versus abundance. and thinking that there's not enough and that we're going to run out of things and that we're going to destroy the planet and all these other things. They want less people. That's the end conclusion. If you go look and read any of the mainstream literature on climate change, or the end result of their conclusions is there's too many people, we need to have less people on the planet. So ultimately, they may be terrified of getting sick themselves and catching this virus, but on some level, they're like, yeah, well, there's going to be less people, so maybe it's kind of a good thing if, 20 million people die of this virus. And you might think that sounds crazy, but it was Prince Charles himself. There's some wind there. Maybe I should just, that's what I was going to do. I was going to cut back down in the bowl and not come up the hill, and I forgot. That's alright. I needed to get a little exercise. Prince Charles himself said that if he died, he would like to be reincarnated as a virus to reduce the population of humanity and wipe out everyone. See, what you're not getting, folks, and I'm not kidding about that, that's real. See, there are people who are for depopulation in a form of vaccination, of a pandemic. So this is all playing into that agenda, and that's how it also ties into the whole climate change agenda, is because those people are using climate change and the United Nations and world peace and all these other things, and the World Wildlife Fund and all these other organizations, the actress Greta Thunberg, all that sort of propaganda to reduce the population. It's all eugenics, folks. The whole thing is eugenics, and if you haven't gotten that piece to the puzzle yet, then you're really missing huge parts of the puzzle. If you don't get how the theory of evolution has transformed into social Darwinism, and now a technocracy of scientific elite who use their superior knowledge and wisdom and technological power to control the rest of humanity. And so that's really what the End Slavery page is all about now, is waking people up to this fact and just trickling stuff out there. Now, I'm not saying my page itself is making the huge difference. I was just explaining the page because you can go find it. It's facebook.com/endslaved. And I just, I don't think some people get it, that we're talking about psychological slavery. We're talking about waking up to the reality of how manipulated everything is. And especially if you've been through, 15,000 hours of government indoctrination and been vaccinated and, watched the mainstream media your whole life, and your parents did the same thing, and there's really a lot of ground to cover on how far gone your worldview has become from the actual reality. And that's what the Falling into the Movement Traps was all about, though. The series, you can find the playlist on my YouTube channel or on the website. Right on the front page of tylerbloyer.com, there's a picture of Falling into the Movement Traps. There's about 17 videos, 4 official parts, where we discuss what happens along the path of sort of waking up, though, and the pitfalls that occur for the person who is kind of coming out of the primary matrix and now exists in what we're seeing more and more every day is the secondary matrix. Because there was a great awakening occurring, and there is. That is happening, but simultaneously there's a backlash occurring from Big Brother. See, that's much better. A lot less wind down here than up on that ridge. You know what I mean? See, that's the thing. It's problem, reaction, solution. That's what the last video was supposed to be more about. And so I came up with a false flag solution because we talked a little bit about false flags in that video. And really, again, going back to what I was saying is there is a massive amount of people, quote unquote, waking up or becoming more aware, essentially, of like our conditions and our causality and our role in that. And along that path, though, there are a lot of problems. And for the people who kind of rule over this realm, this planet, the families, generational psychopaths who obviously have a large amount of control here, not complete control, and I'm not all down and out about everything. I'm actually quite excited about the future, because it's kind of like Star Wars, and I know that I'm jumping all over the place, but the battle goes on. There's always a good and evil, fighting and going against each other. Now, there's always a choice for us to completely just obliterate and destroy ourselves. That's definitely an option here. There's no reason why in nature humanity has to continue existing, right? That's what's funny about the climate change thing is on a long enough timeline, this whole climate change thing is not a thing. But we don't have to be here, and the planet is going to be fine. The planet is not going anywhere. We don't have the capacity to destroy the planet. We could do massive damage, even setting off earthquakes, which lead to setting off volcanoes, with messing around with frequencies and different things that we're doing to excite the electromagnetic atmosphere that the military and other corporations now, even corporate fascism, basically is what we're really ruled by here, in the occultocracy. So there is always pockets of freedom and rebellion and unforeseen things that the scientific technocrats didn't see, like people putting away their cell phones and just giving up on technology and exercising a form of anarcho-primitivism. Now, I'm not saying that that's the way to go. Let's see if we can get back into some sand here. But there will be people that do that. There already is. There's people with this event that are bugged out into the woods with their cryptocurrency and ways of communication that cannot be tracked and traced, so easily, and ways of exchanging value still, with cryptocurrencies that are not so easily tracked. And some cryptography has ways of operating that can be completely anonymous. That would not be Bitcoin. That would be Monero. And a savvy technical person could remain anonymous out in the woods, practicing a form of anarcho-primitivism at the moment, with really not much problems, out in the forests of Arizona or Idaho or Mexico, getting down further south. And not just survive, but really thrive, depending on how long they'd thought about that and how much preparation they'd put into it. And there's ways of communicating. I think they also think that everyone's just going to cower down and just completely believe everything that is said in the mainstream media and not stand up and just go ahead and get their vaccination. And I can tell you right now, for me, that's absolutely not the case, I don't need a guaranteed security contract that you're offering. I'm not here on this planet to have guaranteed safety from the government, and they're going to guarantee me my rights and things like that. I don't wait for the government to tell me that I have safety or I have what I need or something like that. You need to get out of that mindset, You need to get out of waiting for the mainstream media to tell you the next bad news about what's happening. Like, it's bad. We need to have some solutions. The solutions are personal development and growth at this point, where we're at now, and then helping other people. And those were the same solutions before this all happened too. Surprise, surprise. It's all about ending mental slavery, getting out of the cage of the mind control. You know, if that means that you just need to turn off the mainstream media for a while because you're like totally addicted to it, especially in this current situation, then do so, because I can guarantee you the information that you're getting there, if you don't have a critical thinking shield up, is harmful and harming you and is dangerous. It's a very dangerous information stream to be believing right now. Anything that you're hearing. These people have led you into this position of being in such a dangerous position. That's why we're in this crap, is because of the mainstream media. They're the agents of higher powers on this planet that you don't understand. And I'm not talking about some kind of like metaphysical thing or like some kind of alien. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about manipulating powers on this planet who have you right where they want you, and you're just believing every word they tell you. And I'm not saying that people aren't dying. People are dying. But you know what? People are always dying on this planet. And it didn't just start. That disease and illness and viruses started killing people. And the steps that are being taken are clearly from an intellect that is much more cunning than most people have the ability to perceive even exists. And we've got to break out of that mental prison that they've got us in and be able to find ourselves again. And so again, if you need to turn off the mainstream media and really go in and discover yourself again and use your own eyes to observe what's happening in the world and understand, you know, that there's a higher plan unfolding. And some of it, and I'm not talking about like a divine plan, that's not what I mean. A higher plan than you're able to perceive is what I mean. Not to say that there aren't divine plans unfolding either. But in the context of what I was saying is that there's a lot more to this whole situation, and the media is not going to put you in a state of mind that you're going to be able to perceive those things. You should only come back and observe the media when you've got a good grasp on the game, on what's being played. And then you can come back and observe how all that works, how the mind control essentially works. But if you're watching it and not understanding that what you're seeing is a form of manipulation and mind control, then that's what I'm saying. You're just sitting in front of a loaded gun, really. And one way out of that is to hook up with people in a community of like-minded individuals once you start to kind of see through the curtain and want a way out, or if you are at this point in a position where you need to develop skills to work from a new position, hit up the link in my tylerbloyer.com posting under this page, under this video, and it's a community known as Autonomy. I mentioned it earlier. We just got started in season 3, and through that we also are creating an apprentice funnel where we can bring up people that are building new skills and to give them some real world experience into what's the company known as Autonomy Unlimited, or the project known as Autonomy Unlimited. So you can find out more about that in the show notes of this. The other thing is, like I said, if you want to learn how to broadcast yourself, that's the course that I'm going to be working on through Within the Stones Media Network, and definitely in affiliation with the Autonomy crew. And it'll be a basic course to get started on how to sit down, broadcast yourself, and do it live. And get out there and be able to publish yourself. Because, you know, a lot of people are wondering how to do that, and I want to break through the technical part of that for you and help you get to the point where that's not a hurdle, if that is a hurdle for you. So we'll talk to you later, guys. This has been a good walk and talk, and I'll catch you next week.